We'll call the meeting to order. We'll open the floor to public comment. Seeing no public comment. Sir, anything? No? Seeing no public comment, we'll close public comment and we will move on to the roundtable discussion of council members. Anything, Tracy, anything? Mike, anything? Teresa?
Hi, I do. I just have a question. So I see up in the industrial park, between the FC&A building and the new building, I think it's Industrial Drive.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think it's Eastern, but they tore up the road. I don't know whether to put electric, sewer, water, I don't know what they did, but it's been covered with limestone. Are they paying to have their road repaired?
Yeah, anytime you do work in the right of way, you have to restore it. So
Is there a time frame on that?
how long has it been torn up? Do you know?
I would say a couple weeks.
Okay, I'll check with Doug and see where they are.
I mean, there's limestone in there, and
Yeah,
they
it's-
filled it in, and,
So
you
it's
know.
passable. We are in the unfortunate part of the construction season where big projects are hogging up all the asphalt plants. And so if this is a small project, it might be hard for them to get asphalt in there, but it will be fully restored before snow flies. We'll go ahead, like I said, I'll check with Doug Kay and make sure that that's, being taken care of.
Okay.
Is that the same with Ely Street?
So Ely Street, we are doing some lead service replacements we're doing right now. So yeah, the city will be going in and repairing and replace that. Same with what happened at Regent, in front of the Regent Theater.
There was some other stuff done up there.
In the road?
Yep.
What, I mean, there's only water and sewer in the road. What else would have been done?
There wasn't water or sewer, there wasn't anybody from ours there on the hill. Going down.
They ripped up the road in that area?
Next to Crescent. Ely Crescent.
Okay.
There's a couple of square holes cut out of there. One's pretty deep.
Might have been like Frontier, they did put a right there.
Okay, yeah. I'll check and I'll reach out to Doug. But yeah, anytime they do road construction stuff, and it just takes time for contractors to get back in there and, fill it up with asphalt, et cetera.
Okay. And I have another question. I emailed Joel today to ask him who pays for the New Year's Eve, because I see there was an ice skating rink or an ice skating park or something, and a disco thing or something. Just curious who was going to pay for those.
Yes. Okay.
Your reply, and that's why I ask you. Joel's reply was that used to be something Allegan.
Positively
Allegan.
I always say positivity options, and Parker corrects me. He's like, Joel, it's not positivity options.
And some of the money comes out of the general fund,
Yep,
and then a lot of it is sponsor money.
yeah.
I'm just really curious, do we have a dollar amount that's coming out of the general fund yet? Do we know? Because
So-
that is a big chunk of money for trying to save money for our streets.
So annually, the city would set aside $26,000 or contribute $26,000 from the DDA and $19,000 from general fund. Those are the $2 figures annually. They would just do a transfer each year in the general fund in their budgeting process to positive options. So it would always start with 20.
He did it.
Positivity Allegan. So Positivity Allegan every year would start with like a base fund of $40,000. And that would be to fund all the events they do each year. So what we did this year is we did not put any money from DDA or the general fund because they've been somewhat successful at their fundraising and getting sponsorships. And we're like, let's just see where this goes. Let's see if we can do this just through sponsorships. And so to answer your question, yes, some of that money comes from the general fund and DDA because there's leftover money from years past. It also comes from sponsorships that we do for this program as well. That's approximately a $20,000 expense for our New Year's Eve celebration. It's averaged around $20,000, since we started it. Very fortunate that RCI Incorporated, designed, paid for, and built the ball we have, and then we negotiated with RCI and had them donate that to the city about 3 or 4 years ago. That way they can, take their ball and go home with it. They also, thank you for yeah, it was a good pun. My dad would be proud. They also designed and built all the fireplaces that are down there, those cast iron circular fireplaces. And then we also had them donate that to the city as a way of, us being able to keep control over that stuff. The activities that happened during New Year's Eve, so we started silent disco 2 years ago, I believe. Those are activities that are voted on. They're brought forth by staff, and by staff I mean Parker Johnson, Ryan Berza in the back room. They fly it by me if I think it's a okay idea, and then they also take it to the Downtown Allegan board, not the DDA, but that old Positively Allegan board. Thank you. And so it's gone through the appropriate, channels of approvals, some budgeting. The cost, yeah, it's expensive. We have heard from many community members that they would like to see us if we could get some kind of ice skating event happening with some of our events on the riverfront. And just like we were encouraged by community members to get actual amusement rides at Bridge Fest. We try it, and if it is well received, we try to continue it. If it's not well received, we walk away from it and say, yeah, we tried, just wasn't a big thing. Sorry, we're not going to do this one again. So I would offer that, historically, it is the general fund and the DDA fund that, creates that initial seed funding for the events, but there is some significant fundraising that happens. We've been most successful with Rolling on the River fundraising for our weekly concert series. The funding we get from that covers all of our bands. With something like Bridge Fest, we get about half of it covered by sponsorships and half of it's covered through, the local funds, and then same with New Year's Eve. But we have those annual breakdown of those budgets, and we could send those to council just so you can get a snapshot of, how that stuff goes.
That's not necessary. I was just real curious if we had to me it's not, I was just real curious if we had a idea how much would be coming out of the general fund, because as a taxpayer and a city resident, you're raising my water rate, you're gonna go for a tax increase, and now we're spending this money for an event. I'm all about the events. I enjoy the events, don't get me wrong, but you see this dollars being spent and you're raising my rate, and I know the water rates can't be used for that, I get that, but as a taxpayer out there, seeing all these increases, and then you see all this money being spent when you come to an event.
Correct.
So.
Yeah. And it just, I know you and Bob go to the events because I see you guys at the events, and we get to have small conversations, which are correct. Summer's easier to get down there than winter. Just for clarification, the raising of the taxes is the value of the properties go up, which means we pay more in taxes as property owners. The city hasn't raised the tax rate in umpteen years. I just want to say that just because the press is here now. Yep, I said that, so you heard that too there, Jerry. Gary, sorry. Yeah, this year there are no local funds going into our events. Fingers crossed, Parker can get the fundraising, going with that stuff. He just got $1,000 from Michigan Gas Utilities to contribute for New Year's Eve. That check came in today. So it is a constant, struggle to get the community institutions and businesses to support the events with sponsorships. Millbacher
And I
is
guess I misspoke, it wasn't taxes,
Yeah.
it's gonna go, you guys are gonna go trying for a millage.
correct. Thank you. Yeah.
So, we're gonna use a millage to do the roads, but yet we're gonna spend $8,000 for an event.
Yeah.
That, I can see right now, I'm sure it's more than that. So that was my concern.
Sure.
I'm sure Roger and Bill have been watching me write all these things. I have a list. First thing I just wanted to mention is that I was able to make it out to that prepare fair at the airport. I don't know if anybody else made it out there. It was very, very cool, and just like looking forward for use of some of our assets. If we could get more things like that out at that airport, I mean, it would just be a really good use of that space. And I was shocked at all the people that were there, and all of the presenters and everybody that was there. So that was a really cool event, and I'm so thankful. And I talked to the emergency management, Sarah, I believe her name is, Sarah Clark, and just said thanks for, advocating for us and getting that done. So the more things out there, the better. I was also gonna ask, and I had sent a message to Joel shortly after our first meeting in August about the Race Street house that we've discussed a couple times. And he had responded back that he'd had that conversation after the meeting and had graciously allowed like 60 days, so for them to try to sell or do anything. So I just wanted to check, Joel, if you've heard anything else about that property.
Yeah, I'll give council an update on where we are with that. So, as council is aware, we have an order from the courts to demo the structure. They came in after that order is approved. I met with them afterwards. I said it's gonna take us 60 days to line up demolition companies and go that route, and they think they can sell the house. I said, you have 60 days from the eviction to see if you can make progress. Thankfully, they came out and they have cleaned the property. For people that have driven around there, it is more attractive than it was before. The daughter of the owner reached out to me and asked me why the city was doing this and wanted the city to stop it and just let them live there. I informed them that that's just not a possible outcome right now, that they have to, make it habitable for human occupancy. And if they can get going on that, then, we can have that conversation, if they're actually gonna fix it up. I reached out to Chris, who is the representative for the owner. I shared that with him, that conversation. He said, thank you. I asked him if he's got a realtor to give him a price on what they could, try to get for it. He said they're still waiting to do some more cleaning on the inside. There's some infestation that, has to be taken care of. I emailed him this afternoon also, because I figured this probably would come up tonight. So I emailed him this afternoon. I haven't got a response yet. So I've reached out to Mishta. I've taken Lakeshore Habitat for Humanity there, and we're gonna talk about this later on tonight in the study session. And then I reached out to Mishta because they have several $1 million allocated for this region that they can't spend. Unfortunately, their program will only allow a one-for-one replacement. So, yeah, we can get money, but we can only put a single-family home back there. And when I talk to Lakeshore, they see 3 or 4 townhomes going on that corner. It's a massive parcel. And, one-for-one just isn't financially smart on a parcel that big with the cost of construction nowadays. So we're still looking at options, but it looks like in November, mid-October, we're gonna go for demolition.
Thanks for the update, and thanks for working with the family. I know in the message you had sent me, you would mention that habitat, maybe with this grant program, but other thing was tree removal. So I happen to be on Hooker Road, and I think that it has come up before, but there is a tree that's like way over. And then I know that there's a tree in my yard actually, but also in some other of our neighbors that have some trees that were gonna come down this fall. I was just wondering if we have any idea when, I think CHOP was gonna come in and do that. And on that line, do we have dates for fall cleanup?
We do have days
Oh,
for fall cleanup. I'm pulling it up right now on the city website.
I looked the other day and I didn't see it, so I
Oh,
must have
hey.
missed it.
Yeah, so under residents yard waste services, you can find that we've got the dates for fall gather up. The leaf pickup begins October 14th and ends on December 6th. Obviously, weather pending. The DPW starts on Monday of each week on the main roads leading into town, and then get to the neighborhoods as the week goes on. And then the dumpsters that are at the DPW for waste and recycling are available beginning Saturday, October 12th, and then Monday through Saturday. So that's the 14th through the 19th.
Awesome, thank you. I
Yeah,
must have
and
just
then
missed that.
the information will be going out in all water bills this next upcoming round, and then we've got little flyers at the front desk at City Hall as well as being posted on the city Facebook page.
Cool. Last thing was just kind of an update on that, the Flatiron Building. I know that there was a sale pending, but, I mean, are you at liberty to say what may be going in there? That Brady Street building?
Yeah, I can tell you what I have done. So there is a sale pending that's under contract right now. It is a family that lives north of here that owns a couple interior design flooring stores. They'd like to open a second location in downtown Allegan and then renovate the upstairs for apartments. The plan has always been 3 apartments up there. If you look at the for sale sign on the building, it shows you the layout more or less on what they're looking at. So they are just now completing their phase 2 of their environmental study. During phase 1, which is just more or less a literature review, a history review, it was determined that there was an active dry cleaner there back in the 50s or 60s. So when that came up in their review, they had to drill a 2-inch cylinder into our brand new sidewalk to do a soil sample just at the point of the building. So it's going through the process right now, and I'm sure they're running their financials on it and saying, does this make sense? We've already met with them in the state of Michigan to talk about, development funding for that project. It will be a very expensive rehab. So it's going to be a very expensive project for the developers, even with state incentives.
Thank you. That's all I had, Roger, thanks.
Only a couple things. Notice the hammock corner in the park behind the Griswold, we have no real signage on that, so it just kind of appears like there's posts in the ground and nobody knows what to do with them. Probably be nice to put some signs so people know what they can do over there. Also, looking at some of the lamp posts around town and up on Marshall, at the park on Marshall, some of those are starting to look like they're gonna be in need of being repainted. Maybe re-electrified if we want to switch to LEDs or whatever, but something maybe for the DPW to start looking into what the cost would be. And the last one is on Hooker Road. Yes, it does have the power lines are interfered with by trees quite a bit. I don't know if we want to also talk to the utilities, both the cable TV and the power company, to see if they're willing to come and clean out those trees. Save our people some money and time. Like, it's landing on top of their cable line. It's literally pulling it down. So, that was it.
Right. I didn't get to go to the Prepare Fair. We had some other stuff going on, but I drove past it, and I did notice that we approved a Black Hawk helicopter, and that was a Chinook. That was not a Black Hawk helicopter, so I think we need to have more clarity next time. No. Yeah. I'm more of a plane, being Air Force, I'm more of a plane guy, but I recognize helicopters for the most part. So anyway, seems like it was a good event. There was a lot of people there, a lot of stuff. Yeah, so that's all for roundtable. We'll move on to item number 4, discussion regarding utilization of the Griswold Auditorium. Joel?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor. This is going to be deja vu for council. I apologize for the deja vu, but the policy that we just updated doesn't really cover some unique situations that could be beneficial to the city of Allegan corporate, the city of Allegan as a community, and just the larger Allegan community. So, a little bit of history, and I understand that this is my history. This isn't the community's history, because you used to have, this community had concerts there well before Parker and Joel, showed up and took over the Griswold. But in 2019, we took a stab at doing a concert series, a 4-week concert series called the April Series. This was to, build off the success of Rolling on the River, what we were doing in the summertime on the Riverfront. The city, and by city I mean city staff, we booked the performers, we sold the tickets. This isn't there, we sold the beverages, but Parker reminded me that we partnered with the Allegan Community Players to handle the beverages for us. And then, while I believe that that series was beneficial to the community, we lost money at the end of the day. So, I'm not quite sure it's something that we can say, it was a financially, wise decision. The city, lost approximately $4,100, after we paid for the performers and then collected the sales from the ticket sales. We're now at a point where last February, I attended the Cabin Fever Reliever concert series at the Presbyterian Church. I saw probably a 9-piece band on that altar there. They were just flowing over that front of that church. It was a great concert, and in the back of my head, I couldn't get it out that this should be on the stage at the Griswold, not here. It would have been such a better performance if it was at the Griswold, not slighting the volunteers that put that on, but just, the Griswold was designed and built for those kind of performances. We ended up having lunch with the Kalamazoo Folklife, with the Allegan chapter of the Kazoo Folklife organization. They actually brought in their president of the Kalamazoo Folklife organization. It's probably 8 or 9 of us that had lunch at Schaindorf that day. They are thrilled with the idea of moving it to the Griswold and partnering more with the city to bring live music into that building. That is something where I jumped to in my mind saying, what, the city could sponsor this. Just like we sponsor Rolling on the River, and we don't make the city rent the Riverfront stage. We just offer that as a gift to the community. This is something that we could work with the Allegan chapter of the Kazoo Folklife and have a winter concert series. Their Cabin Fever Reliever is a wonderful, wonderful title for a concert series, especially in the wintertime, because we all get cabin fever around that time. So this would be a benefit for the downtown businesses that are open on Sundays. Right now, we have 3 places, that are open for lunch on Sunday afternoons. Minnie's, I think, closes at 2, so they do the breakfast, crowd really well on Sundays. And I think the Mexican restaurant is going to be 7 days a week if they're like any of their other operations. So we might have, 5 total restaurants that we open on Sundays that would benefit from this kind of event coming down there. So this is something I feel that Joel feels that, the city could help sponsor this. We have the means, we have the capabilities, and, we could come to an agreement that we don't rent that out. Then, Councilmember Zeter brought in, I'm gonna use the word an acquaintance, friend, by the name of Cal. I've talked to him now twice about the Griswold. Once I gave him a tour. This was just a conversation in my office. He has, as he stated, connections in Nashville, Tennessee. He'd be interested in bringing some musicians from Nashville up here to perform. The conversation started off with he was going to give the city $200,000 and then just draw down from the $200,000 as he brought people in. And I said, you can just put that in a bank. The city isn't going to be your bank. Then he offered the city he offered to buy the Griswold for $250,000. And I said, okay, I understand we want to get music in this place. Let's have another larger conversation with council about this. I'm not sure if I put this in my memo, if this was a sentence I deleted. I would advise council, do not sell the Griswold Auditorium, period. I want to be very clear, that's my advice. Even though it's sometimes a headache for me as an administrator, it's a very important building, and I would recommend you do not sell it unless you have a very good community-supported plan for that. I think we just need to have a larger conversation about what's a city-sponsored event there when it comes to music. And at what point do we want to, allow those community events a little more free access to the auditorium if the city can benefit? And I didn't talk to Teresa, but part of, Positively Allegan's funds in the very beginning came from that board selling adult beverages during city events. They would pull the liquor license, they would acquire the beverages, then sell the beverages, and that's how they would make some money. I see an opportunity in here where we could, the city could be the one that utilizes those. We provide the space, but then we also collect the money from the alcohol sales. When we did the April series, we partnered with the community players, as Parker reminded me. They netted just under $2,000 for those 4 concerts. So that could be something where this money, is, secured, or, that the revenue generated from that goes into Positively Allegan's fund for the other events, help fund other events we do. Again, it's deja vu for pretty much every single council member around the board, because we've always talked about how do we get more use going on at the Griswold.
After reading all that, I was kind of thumbing through some things in my head that I have been involved with on different occasions, where John Doe rents a building or has been given the building to use, and the building owner has taken a percentage of gross sales. They have nothing to do with it whatsoever. They just take for the use of the building, and is that something that can be done?
Sure.
That way, we're assured of getting money from whatever we're doing.
So I think for like the ticketed events, I said sure, because I'm thinking ticketed events, like the April series, you had to buy a ticket to go there. I believe the Cabin Fever Reliever series is just open to the public. And they do a free will donation. Leah secures probably 5 to 10 different grants throughout the Midwest to help pay for that. So if it's a ticket event, sure, I think we could say, hey, we're gonna take a percentage of the ticket sales and all of the alcohol sales. But the free ones, I'm a little, there's not a percentage of sales to take from that.
Correct. Would there be alcohol sales involved with the free ones?
Yeah.
You're talking a very different audience on a different day of the week at a different time frame. It's a Sunday afternoon rather than a Friday night kind of thing, so.
Yeah.
I don't want to see the city losing money, just as, I'm sure no one at this table believes in that, so.
I looked at this again and I go, one, it's always comes up in section 10 of our normal meeting if they want to petition us for reduced rate. I'm fine with that currently because we couldn't quite come to an agreement, whether nonprofit, all of that. Free events, I've always been, if it's a free community event, you got to pay for our sound and light guy, and if you leave a mess, you got to pay to clean up the mess. Those ones are free concerts for the whole community. I don't have a big problem because it's a public asset there for the use of the public. If somebody wants to use it for paid concerts, but they want it for free, then I would say, normally I would say if they're gonna do tickets, we would take $1 or $2 a ticket. It's a 600-seat auditorium, $600, $1,200. That's getting pretty close to the rental rate on its own. And then we can also do liquor sales in it. We can make a very reasonable agreement, whether even, hey, if you're not sure you're gonna have a very big concert, the $1 a ticket goes up to, you know, your first 200 is our sound and light guy. And then after that, you know, minimum you have to pay for that, because I'm not gonna put one of our employees there for free, especially if you're charging ticket price. But I've been open to split tickets, all different manners of trying to get people in there. Because sometimes it just takes being reasonable at the beginning to get something going and not being too demanding to say you have to pay full rate. We're gonna try to get this going and see, can we get movement? Can we get more of a continual operation? Something more regular, monthly, you know, hey, you start off, works out for you, maybe you start doing a couple a year, quarterly. That gets the building's usage there, it gets and I think we can all benefit, the businesses downtown, the residents from having more events in town, the community for having free concerts, which is, when we don't have to manage it, I much prefer it. If the folk life want to come in and manage getting the performers, paying the performers, all of that, that's all off of our list. I much enjoy that much better and say, a little bit of concession sales, you at least got to pay for our sound guy. Very reasonable. I'd rather see use of it than no use. But I think as we get more use of it, I think it would become more towards being break even to profitable, but you have to get the use going. And it's just unfortunate we haven't had COVID that really shut down everything for 2 years, and now I'd like to see the ball get moving again.
What do they pay now for the summer series?
Riverfront?
Yeah.
Oh, the city puts that on, so it's just part of our,
Kalamazoo Life one, that they do that?
no, the city, oh, for the good times at the gazebo?
Correct.
Oh, they don't pay, you guys waive that. Yeah, you waive that reservation fee every year.
Well, you know, they don't have a sound guy there. They do their own sound,
They do their own sound.
own setup, own takedown, and they technically could just sit in the park and do it on their own if they wanted to, because it's a public space that's free to use for anyone.
So how I saw this memo, Joel, was you were asking if the event is co-sponsored by the city. So we're talking about events co-sponsored by the city, that there would not be a special request that would come in front of council because it's co-sponsored. So my question was, how are you gonna differentiate between if, you know, Mr. Smith comes in and wants the city to co-sponsor this event over Mr. Jones? How are you going to decide what the city is gonna co-sponsor? That's where I'm like, that could kind of get a little sticky.
Very much so. We had a concert down on the Riverfront last Thursday? Yeah, last Thursday, someone rented the Riverfront for their own concert. Their daughter was gonna perform some of her stuff. They contacted us in the afternoon and said there's spider webs all over the lights. We said, yeah, it's an outdoor park. And they said, can we clean them? We're like, yeah, most definitely. You're allowed to knock down the spider webs off, you know, the lights. So they, you know, using that example, if they would have said, hey, we want you to sponsor this. I think it can be a slippery slope at times. The Cabin Fever Reliever Series, open to the public, free of charge. We already have a relationship with them, with Good Times at the Gazebo, where we don't, you know, sponsor it, but we
That was
allow
my
them
thought.
to utilize the Mayhem Park for free and not reserve it for themselves. The Griswold is something we own. To me, it's just kind of a gut thing that you would say, yeah, this is something we're part of, and if it's just someone that just comes in off the, you know, the street, and they're only gonna perform one time, well, they're not really providing this, you know, I think we can come up with, lack of a better word, some standards. If you promise to bring in 4 concerts a year, we can talk about this, but then we get in, again, I think you kind of get into a little bit of a slippery slope here, like we've talked before.
I mean, I'm not, you know, an evangelical series.
Sure.
That's where I'm like, you're gonna have to try to be that neutral ground, and how do you set a policy to be that neutral ground?
I think there's an opportunity to say, to come up with some kind of policy, because we had this conversation with our city attorney when we were talking about other stuff, you know, non-religious, non-political, you know, whether it be, you know, the Allegan County GOP or the Allegan County
Yeah, and I'm
Democrats,
not
or
picking on, you know,
the
evangelical.
Wiccans of West Michigan, or, you know,
Right.
pick your poison. You know, the people that like Italian submarines, which
Mm-hmm.
is something I like, so. You know, I think you wanna say, you know, non-political, non-religious.
Mm-hmm.
Italian submarines, New York sandwiches. It's a really good sub.
The hoagie.
Don't get one with marinara. If they put marinara on it, it's not an Italian submarine. It's gotta have the Italian dressing. Again, and this is why I wanted to throw this on the, you know, the DS for council to discuss. How do we want to, you know, move forward?
I mean, I think it's great, but I think, yeah, you do need to have a policy that is real black and white
Yeah.
for what is going to be co-sponsored, and that it doesn't need to come in front of council for special request.
So if you know, we have plenty of time because there's not much to discuss in this meeting or the regular meeting for that fact. So I kind of want us to just spitball a little bit. If we go off, you know, Peter's idea of if it's ticketed, we get a percentage up to X. Okay? And
Or is
then-
that we get a percentage, and maybe you can look at the $200 sound and light as the beginning. It's a minimum of $200. Once you get past 200 and $1 a ticket or $2 a ticket, then we start collecting more
Yep.
again.
But then it is still co-sponsored. So, I mean, co-sponsored to me is like, it's good for it's free will for the community to come out.
I don't know if that one, I didn't say that one would be sponsored, because that's a paid concert. I'm not.
Yeah,
saying
but I'm like looking at this memo from Joel is talking about co-sponsored with the city. I'm not talking about the other fees that,
Well, I was saying like this, the one is the Kalamazoo Life, and the other one looks like it's we're gonna sell tickets. If you're gonna sell tickets, I'm not gonna co-sponsor
Well,
it.
well, yeah, well, that's where I think that policy needs to be real
And
Yeah.
airtight of what we're gonna
That's where-
co-sponsor.
And that's kind of where I was going, maybe rewrite the section in our policies that talk about ticketed events, because we do have a section that talks about ticketed events. Maybe try to, lack of a better phrase, pigeonhole a policy that says that you're gonna do, you know, musical performances.
It's usually just a certain percentage of the tickets, and then we get the option for in-house sales of beverages first before it
And we
goes.
could make the decision. If it's gonna be opened up to the community, you know, maybe we, you know, we talk about that being free of charge.
See, this, for the most part, I'm fine with still stuff coming before. I have the. I'm fine with it still coming up to us in section 10 of our normal agenda if they want to petition us for a reduced fee. Because whenever we've tried to written a policy, the policy never can quite get there. And I'm like, why am I gonna keep going down this and like keep slamming my head in the wall and just say,
Sure.
hey, if you want to do this co-sponsored event, Leah, come before, write up a proposal, come in during section 10. And we can schedule it for out to a year because we allow for scheduling at the Griswold up to a year in advance. The same with somebody that wants to do concerts that are paid, maybe give you a proposal. You present that proposal to us and say, he's proposing this instead of just a straight
All right.
fee.
So-
Were you guys okay with this?
So we have a place in that policy that talks about community, nonprofits and community organizations. If I'm reading council's body language, I think, and correct me if I'm not, but I think I see something that says, hey, you're okay if the Cabin Fever Reliever series says, here's the 9 dates we're gonna do in 2025. We'd like to use the Griswold for free. We're gonna identify the city as a sponsor for this, for your donation or whatever. And then you guys could be comfortable saying, we're good with that. The city reserves the right to sell concessions. They may not be adult beverages. It might be, you know, cashews or whatever. Water? Popcorn. We do have a popcorn machine with our failed attempt at the Regent Theater Arcade still hanging around, that, so we could make popcorn with that. I can see us figuring something out along that, and then they just have to come ask permission.
That's what our current policy says, so they want a reduced rate, feel free to send it in, and you're probably gonna get us to approve it if it's a free concert series, and I don't think a lot of people on council here are gonna be like, no, please make us have to do the scheduling and pay for the performers and.
With the sound and light, just to give you guys, I know we have that, you know, you have to pay a minimum for our sound and light. We are flexible with our hours here. And we have trained another person and hired a part-time employee that's irregular part-time, so they're just call in to help with sound and light issues, just in case, you know, if Ryan, who is our sound and light technician, just in case if he's out for some reason, we're trying to build a little bit of a bench to pull someone off for help with stuff like that.
Joe, what are the annual expenses on the Griswold?
So our annual expenses, I don't got the numbers right in front of me, they're in the budget, but we lose, I'll just tell you what we lose. We lose like around 60 to 80,000 a year, depending on building improvements or building maintenance that pops up. I'm sure if you open our budget, you can go see the previous couple of years and what we're projected for the next two.
Right around 90,000 sticks in my head.
Sure.
I was gonna say 70.
Expenses.
Next year's gonna be a lot more because we have $170,000 set aside to do some major capital improvements. And we've had 2 building restoration companies look at it and, yeah. But it's gonna be, yep. So that's what we're looking at to keep that building open, heat, cooled, occupied. The community events that happen there, you know, the multiple community plays that happen there. The Arts Council did their kids' arts camp this year. On October 5th, the Allegan District Library is working with the Gun Lake Tribe for the shortened version on the history of the Gun Lake Tribe in Allegan County. And they were going to do the presentation at the library. So many people have reserved to show up for that. They're moving it to the Griswold. They're one of the local agencies that get to use the Griswold for free for stuff like that, so that's a real cool thing. It is used by the community. Maybe not as much as we would like to see it used, but it's an asset for us.
So, I know when I brought you Cal, he's got a minimum of once a month doing a large program. He can afford to do the maintenance on the building. He could put a new roof on. He could do the tuck pointing. Are those expenses the city wants to keep incurring?
So I will phrase my response this way. Those are expenses the city has to keep incurring if the community wants to keep the Griswold and the public trust. If the community says they don't want to keep the Griswold and the public trust, then it's a different conversation. Based on the people I talk to in this community, that building means something very special to them. Based on the people I talk to that live in the city, they put value on that structure. And when I say public trust, I mean they own it, trust, that kind of a thing. I have only a handful of people who said, just sell it, get rid of it. And they tell me to sell everything.
Well, I know his intent is programming there, and if there's a date where the public wants to do something there and he doesn't have anything booked, that's a good day. He's all about working with the community. He grew up in Otsego. He's been here his whole life, so.
From what you're saying there, Mike, I'm a little confused because the memo that I received said they want it use free, but then I'm getting told he can pay to put a roof on. I'm a little confused why you would need it free if you're saying he could take over all that expense of running the building. I'm just, I would need to, if they want to buy it, then I guess you could buy it at fair market value, but it would be,
He didn't want to use it for free.
oh, okay, well, that's what I was just reading in the memo, free or reduced. That's why I was looking at that going, what in the world? I'm confused.
Yeah, Cal, his last conversation with me, Mike, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, was he offered to give the city $200,000 that he would draw down on when he brought
Correct.
Axe in.
He was,
And then the other offer was, I can just give you $250,000 for it.
yeah, he understands that the city's tight on money. And so that was his offer to assist the city in funding. But he ultimately would really like to purchase the building.
I don't know, personally, I would just rent it, but that's just me. I look at that rental cost, that's how cheap it is. I'd just be like, I don't got any of the maintenance and I can rent it whenever I want. So that's why I was a little confused when,
Do you remember Cal's last name?
Chance.
Chance, okay. And I think also when we met with him, Mike, and correct me if I'm wrong, but as I tell everybody who says, hey, will the city sell me land? Submit an offer, address it to the mayor and city council and copy me, and I'll make sure they get it. And I haven't received a written offer from him to purchase the building.
No, and I purposely told him to hold off because we were gonna have a conversation. And then I hear you recommending not to sell, which is kind of confusing because we were in your office and you were all about selling. So I'm kind of confused.
Yeah, I mean, just the three of us were in that office, so the
Yeah.
three of us, have our own perspectives. I don't know if I was all about selling. I said there's always that option, as I tell everyone that reaches
Right.
out. And as I mentioned in my memo, which is, I think, the first written words was to the council, based on the people I interact with in this city, there is a heartfelt attachment to that building. So you're gonna wanna make sure,
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't think that's a $250,000 building. That's 1.5 million if you're gonna sell it.
Oh, easy.
I mean, that's a massive building.
Yeah, when we had originally, when we had our subcommittee talking about the Griswold and what to do with it, that, my initial reaction was, if we could find somebody to buy this, we should just have them do that. And the more I've talked to people in the city, that's just not what the city residents want to have happen. The majority of the people that I've talked to want the city to keep it.
Mike, is this the same Cal that bought the building on M89 right there across from Sean's Tire?
Yes,
And we see where that building is sitting.
I don't know what building.
I'm in the
it is.
process of purchasing that from him.
the old school building.
Which, where?
At Seagull, the old school building?
Yeah,
Oh, the big one? Oh, the big one?
Yeah.
Oh. Oh, Sean's, I got you. No, I'm with you. So do you have what you need from us on this, Joel, or what else do we need to?
So based on the conversations that I've heard right now around the table, and Parker, correct me if I misspeak or you wrote something else down, different down. Ticket sales, percentage, however that works out, your guys are, the council appears to be comfortable with that direction. And then community organizations, nonprofits, if they're gonna be free events for the city, you're okay with them just coming in and asking permission under item 10 of the agenda? I'm just reading body language.
Yeah.
One person mentioned that. And then the third one is, yeah, if Cal's interested in purchasing it, he can submit, a letter and have a conversation with the council on, how he feels that would move forward.
As far as the Kalamazoo Folklife, I understand what Tracy's saying, and we have to watch how we do things. But I think, given our long relationship with Kalamazoo Folklife, it makes sense. It seems like that would be an obvious partnership, especially for a winter series, because we're both doing music during the summer, and to partner together. And maybe we need to shore that up and talk to Nick about how we word that. But I like the idea of partnering and putting on that together and sort of being our winter time rolling on the river, and I think that's a cool idea.
I could. And I know that Leah was instrumental in getting all the music downtown during food trucks as well, and she kind of took that on and did that herself, so
Yeah.
that was really awesome of her.
She did music for our, she set up a musician for our fundraiser as well. I called her and talked to her, and she got
cool.
somebody for us, so.
Yeah, so she has a history
Yeah.
of giving back to the community, definitely.
Yeah, it's not just some random person that came up and said, hey, we want the city to partner with us. Like, this is a years-long relationship.
And we have made it kind of precedent that if we are providing that building or anything else, for an event, that they list us as a co-sponsor anyway. So in any way that we provide something at a reduced or discounted rate or a free rate, we're always gonna be trying to be listed as a co-sponsor or a sponsor.
Well, and the policy already covers ticketed events, so maybe you just need to stick something in there for non-ticketed events. And like Roger said, I mean, Leah has proven, she's been doing this for a number of years, so we know she has a good rate of getting artists and people involved.
Track record.
I do like the idea though too of downtown Allegan kind of reprising its role. I think that's one reason it became a separate entity, was so that it could pull liquor licenses, so it could be a nonprofit to pull those. So what is it, like 11 or something a year? Or it used to be?
12 a
Is it
year.
12?
Yep.
So,
12 a year, and then they use the players or other people.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, did we ever get the state to give us an answer if they would at all adjust it for what was at the rehabilitation? Because we're under 5,500 people or under 6,000 people?
Oh,
I
yeah.
thought one of our state senators or state reps were supposed to be
Yeah.
trying to help us out with that.
So earlier this summer, I reached out to both Rochelle Smith and Eric Nesbitt's office. They've agreed to work together to look into it. I mean, I think our population is 5,222. Once it hits 5,500, then we can just purchase a liquor license for $500 for that auditorium. And I'm trying to get them just to remove the population threshold, because it appears to me completely arbitrary.
Does seem quite arbitrary, and is that based off of just the last census of 2020, or is it based off of the estimates that they do ongoing?
So I believe it's based off the estimates.
Have them come and do the estimate on Jubilee or New Year's Eve.
Somehow. So as Parker and Michaela just reminded me, we're now 5,022 because somehow we lost 200 people. Or as my geography professor told me 25 years ago, census data is senseless data.
So we just need to have a concert at the Griswold that lasts at least a couple days so they can be considered residents.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's like 600 people, that'll get us there.
There we go.
But yeah, if you want to reach back out to them and see if they've gotten anywhere on that, because that was something that I would really like to see move forward as a way to help
pay that the Griswold has a way to make revenue during some of these reduced fees, or just in general, you know, if we're doing split tickets and we're only making 600 or on the night plus a sound person, the sales of the beverages and snacks could go into that fund to help maintain the building. Unfortunately, positively, Allegan won't like it because it's not going in their fund anymore.
Just as a reminder, if it stays empty, we get nothing.
Yeah. So we say,
Even
rather
if we
have-
sell cashews, we could get something.
Yeah. Part of something's better than all or nothing. All right. We good on that? You good on
I
that,
am.
Joe? So we can move on to item number 5, update on housing initiatives in the city of Allegan.
All right, let me give you just a quick update on where we are with some housing movement. As I shared an email with council, we have secured a fellow from CEDM, that's the Community and Economic Development Association of Michigan. This person is going to be a full-time employee for 15 months, working out of City Hall underneath my office. Their main focus is going to be on housing. This grant application opportunity was brought to my attention by the Allegan County Community Foundation. So Stephanie Calhoun, the executive director over there, reached out to me and said, hey, the county's going to apply for this, or the foundation's going to apply for it. And then she called like maybe 20 minutes later and said, oh, we're not eligible to apply, but cities are. She's like, would you mind applying for this? And we will go ahead and we'll pay the $10,000 matching portion. And I said, yeah, housing's important. To have someone focused on that is going to be very beneficial. We're going to pull this person into other, arenas in the city, but their main focus is going to be on housing. Speaking of our partnership with the foundation, next Monday, we will be having a presentation here on housing and what the foundation's focus is for all of Allegan County. They hired a new community impact officer, Chris Kleinheinz. And so it's gonna be a way for him to introduce himself. Years ago, or a couple years ago, the 5th Monday of, which happens 4 times a year, Allegan County, city, villages, and townships would get together at the Township Hall, Allegan Township, and just talk about community issues or cutting sector issues. They haven't met in a couple years, I believe. I reached out to Steve Schultz and said, hey, the foundation would like to try to do something on the 5th Monday. Do you mind if we go this direction? And he, gave his blessing and then offered to help organize it. I mentioned that Michaela and I will be able to put the mailing list together because the mailing list changes so often because township officials and village officials and city officials, as we know, change often. So we took the lead on that. The foundation wants to get involved in housing. They funded a housing assessment study that the county has done for the county, a year ago. So that's at 7 o'clock. Yeah. So if you're available, 7 p.m., feel free to show up here and listen to the foundation speak. I'll be here. We're going to have juice and coffee and cookies. Probably not brownies. Those aren't good for you, Bill. Cookies are okay. Brownies, a little rough. No. If you have brownies, you gotta have milk. At least that's how it is in my house for me. So that's just stuff we're doing, trying to get housing built in the city. As I informed council through an email, I've been working with Lakeshore Habitat on a variety of fronts. One of them is we were able to secure $400,000 to assist low to moderate income homeowners with critical home repairs throughout the city of Allegan. This is another one where the foundation, got the conversation going. And I said, this is great, but it can't be countywide. Let's just focus on the city. We have enough needs in the city. And thankfully, Lakeshore Habitat agreed to do a pilot project here. The ultimate goal is we develop something that they then can copy in different cities and villages throughout throughout Allegan County and Van Buren County, because they go down Van Buren as well. So, yeah.
Have you got in the details of how that'll be determined? Like who qualifies, or is there a whole like formula and a
Yeah.
big, okay.
So to answer your question, no, we haven't gotten into the details.
all right.
I've met with Jackson, and his last name escapes me, but he will be their home repair program manager for this program here. Met with him last week, took him on a tour of all the different neighborhoods just to acclimate him. So you can start seeing where the different neighborhoods are, but also the structures that make up each of the neighborhoods. They are going to have an intake form that everyone will have to fill out. With the intake form, they're gonna have to get a couple estimates for the work that they want done. And then there will be a direct hire between Lakeshore Habitat and the contractor, I believe. But they're still massaging the exact process. We have the framework built out. It's now just getting into the details, the nuts and bolts of the program. Through that program, I have offered that the city will provide the meeting spaces for them. So homeowners here don't have to drive up to Holland to meet with someone one-on-one. We have extra space here that we can park this employee when he has to be down here and meet with some people one-on-one. The city is going to pay for the marketing materials. So we've already had the assessor run a report of all owner-occupied homes. So they're gonna get a flyer in the mail saying this is available to homeowners here that are low to moderate income. And once we have all those parameters established, we'll have that flyer go out. We'll do a kickoff meeting here as well, probably, something of a 10-minute presentation and an open house Q&A kind of thing. The big struggle with this one is identifying contractors. This city just has a dearth of general contractors, roofers, deck builders, window replacers. You might know of one or two off the top of your head right now saying, Joel, we don't have a dearth. If you don't have a dozen that we could just go, it's gonna be hard, because that one or two you already know about, that you're listing in your head, they already have projects lined up. And they're already hired by people that are paying them cash money. And they're gonna have to be introduced to this idea of, I'm gonna do the work, and then when the work's done, then I get reimbursed for the cost that I already incurred. It's how these programs work. It's how they worked in Holland when I managed it in my young career. Many times I would tell a contractor, if you don't have a line of credit at Home Depot, Menards, Lowe's, you're not qualified for this program to begin with. Because you don't have the oomph behind you to do what we're looking for. So, if you know of contractors, because I know of 3, please email them to me and say, Joel, you should consider these, contractors. It is critical home repair, so it's focusing on, there's holes in the roof. The furnace is going out. We can get into plumbing issues if the entire plumbing system is collapsing, but we're not gonna get into plumbing issues because you want gold-plated faucets instead of, the silver faucets you had that came with the house kind of a thing. But if you got a bathtub that's falling through the floor, that's a critical home repair. We'll get into windows, envelope, stuff like that. We're gonna partner with Community Action Agency and their weatherization program, so we're gonna try to stretch the dollars as much as we can. But for, this city to get $400,000 for critical home repairs, I think it's a big deal. To get a nonprofit like Habitat boots on the ground in this city is a real big deal to me.
Do we have a target launch date?
No, we do not have a target launch date.
Kind of like to see one so that then you guys have a date to kind of aim for, to have all those questions all wrapped up and.
Yeah,
that
yep,
way-
that's a good question. And the reason we don't have a target launch date is we applied for this fund early summer, and it took Mishta forever to get the grant agreement to Habitat, and they just got it a few weeks ago. So the goal was to have this program up and running by, end of summer, fall. And so right now, I would say we probably don't have a target launch date. But we just got the mailing list from our assessor today, so we are checking off steps. And then I want to make you guys aware that the Planning Commission is going to be reviewing residential development that's going to comprise of 42 single-family homes at 500 Delano Street. It'll be coming to the Planning Commission at their October meeting, and so your second meeting in October for City Council, you'll be having a first reading of a rezoning request. It will be PUD, Planned Unit Development. The development matches the master plan for the area. This area is for mixed-use density, mixed density residential, mixed density residential, which calls for tighter densities than otherwise afforded in residential districts. I've shared the plan with Allegan Public Schools. They're excited to see this come to fruition. 42 single-family homes that are designed for families. These are 3 to 5 bedroom houses, 2-stall garages. It's a style of home that we don't have a plethora of right now in the city, and this will be a good addition. And for that neighborhood, it'll be a good addition off Delano. It'll be a simple cul-de-sac design, or just be a cul-de-sac road that comes off Delano, similar to Depot Hill condos and Summit Drive, that kind of development. These will be tighter. And then this is where I'm just gonna tell council, housing is expensive. Housing is very expensive. To build a mid-grade home right now, $250 a square foot. So if it's 1,500 square feet, you're at 3. So the more homes we can get in a development, you get some kind of economy of scale that kicks in a little bit. So I just wanted to prepare you to, I say choke on your Cheerios, but it's gonna be a gulp when you see this stuff, With that said, we are working, and by working, I've just received a quote from a firm that helps with TIFs, tax increment financing. So we can do residential TIFs, where we can approve a TIF district for a developer that's gonna put in the water, the sewer, the road, the curb, the sidewalks, and the taxes that are generated from that development will reimburse them for that cost. And that's how development typically works well. That way the city doesn't have to upfront that cost to put in the road and the sewer. It becomes public, we own it, but this is how we can work to get the developer to do it. There is a new law that I have been told, I don't know much about it, but there's one now that allows cities to provide TIFs to buy down the cost of housing. Does the city council want to receive an education on that? Some cities are running away from that, saying, we're not in the business of making housing affordable. Some cities are saying, we need to make housing affordable because our police officers, these are bigger cities, pay starts at X and they can't afford a home in our community with new development. So I can see if I can bring someone in that knows what they're talking about in regard to this. I've only sat in 2 small workshops on this stuff, but I kind of need to know if you want to look at buying down the cost of affordability.
Just real quick, the price point of the homes that they were kind of proposing at the Girl Scout property caught me off guard, and I mentioned that, very much I was in support of that, but I felt that with our median income in Allegan, lower than the county, lower than the state, that price point was gonna be very difficult. We might price our own residents out of owning the homes. I had a really good conversation with Ben Otis and I think it was Stephanie from the Community Foundation as well, about housing prices, and they said that's kind of like the threshold everybody's looking for right now, is that $300 level, which seems really out of control for me.
Yeah,
But, I mean, personally, I would. I don't know if that would happen, before the end of October, but I think anything we can do to help our residents, if it's not going to be, too burdensome or cost the city too much, but it doesn't hurt, and it's good for the residents who are in the market, in my opinion.
I would look at it probably only from the standpoint of I'm probably not gonna really think it's a great idea if we're going and putting a TIF on an existing neighborhood. How's that go about?
So I think we can only do these for new developments, because the cost of new construction is high. But this is, I don't think this is for existing, like, houses.
Subsidizing the builders?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's how one city manager told it to me, and then just turned around and walked out of the room. I knew where he stood on this.
Usually, I just think you gotta get more supply, and as you get more supply, the prices fluctuate. They go up and down. You get a glut in the market, and then all this prices come back down and they go up. And especially with the interest rates now starting to get cut, you may actually start seeing some movement again on the market and start seeing some price reductions.
And I can't say, specifically, but Ben, who is a pretty well-known realtor in our area, had just said that he can see those prices coming down, but he doesn't see them going, much lower. Interest rates may come down, but it's still not gonna be where they were before, so,
Not until you can get new construction
yeah,
costs.
small dip, but
Can't get new construction costs down to existing construction, or existing houses are gonna be expensive. And new construction costs are high, energy costs are high.
And I think too, I look at this as who wants to come into this community, but we don't have the housing that they're looking for. And I think this is the housing they're looking for.
Right, and I-
Some of the housing they're looking for. I think there's more work we have to do, but yeah.
absolutely, and
Yeah.
I mean, I just saw Mark Whitty come in from OnPoint, the executive director there, but I had brought that up as we have had multiple new staff in our agency, and there is no housing stock for them here, so they're having to commute and then have to make that decision on whether this is the place to be with that commute in
Right,
mind,
yeah.
so it's tough. I'm super in favor of this development for sure, but anything we can do to assist would be, in my mind, a good thing.
We just need like 10 to 12 people per house, and then we get the liquor license. Especially since you told me it's like 200 down more.
Gotta bump that population up.
Overcrowding of housing is gonna be Allegan's policy for
Well,
housing.
if you're saying it's a 3 to 4 bedroom type houses, 42 houses, average of 3 to probably 5 people, so maybe 3.5, 4 people. You are talking of 162, 200 people. So. Doesn't get us quite there, but it's closer.
It's closer.
So I think what I can do is I can reach out to the firm that's quoting us this project and see if they're able to hop on a couple Teams calls. And I can have a few of you come in at a time that want to listen and absorb this information instead of having them drive from the east side of the state and do a presentation during that study session.
I just want to say thank you to staff too for all of the work that has gone into procuring some of these grants. I know this development on Delano has been a conversation for 4 or 5 years. I've been involved with that conversation peripherally as well. So I really, really appreciate that. I got that email that outlined this, and it's very exciting to know that we'll have that full-time employee here looking at that. It's been on our goals for 3-4 years in a row, so definitely making some headway, so thank you.
Thank you. And then the last thing about housing that's not up there, just very quickly, was this morning, I was in Grand Rapids for a disability conference. Can't really call it a conference if it was like 5 hours, but it was called a conference, talking about, housing for that population. got a lot of interesting information. Lakeshore Habitat was there. Dwelling Place, which is a nonprofit housing developer in Grand Rapids, was there. Community land trusts came up, and that's where a developer controls the land but sells the structure. So in my opinion, real quick, I just jumped to like condominiums. You own the building, but you don't own the land. It's all public. It's a little more detailed than that simple analogy I came up with. But there's some opportunities there, that I think, we can build some relationships to talk about how we house, or help house that population. I shared some of that information with the mayor with his, daytime job at the Arc, so. And then Mark, you walked in, so they talked about 180 up there. We got OnPoint down here, so there might be some opportunities to have a larger, broader conversation. And I'll remind council, I completely forget the agency's name, but Hope was in it. They looked at purchasing land down in the Mill District. That's probably about 5 years ago, and we got pretty far along talking to them until we pulled a floodplain map out and realized that low-income housing tax credits cannot be applied to land where the ingress or egress is below the floodplain level, period. Even though you can build in there, you can't, if your ingress or egress is below floodplain, you cannot get the tax credits, and that killed that project. So there are some West Michigan agencies that, recognize or, identify Allegan as a place for investment. And then later this week, I'll be meeting with the schools. I've invited Parker to be part of that meeting to talk about the future use of their elementary schools, because it's 2026. So we're, just 2 years out from opportunity. And thankfully, they're willing to be at the table and have those discussions with us. That's all I have to give you an update on housing, unless you have more questions.
All right, thanks, Joel. We'll move on to item number 6, a review of the council agenda. Any changes, additions? All right, so that being said, I will adjourn the meeting at 6:47, and we will be back here for the regular meeting at 7 o'clock. I will call the meeting to order. A roll call vote, attendance, please.
Sure. Councilmember Perigo. Here. Councilmember Zeter.
Present.
Councilmember Morgan.
Present.
Councilmember Andrus.
Here.
Councilmember Galloway.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Hands.
Present.
And Mayor Byrd.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you, Michaela. If you'll stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance with us. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We'll have the approval of the agenda. Item 4A, approval of the regular council meeting agenda for September 23rd, 2024.
I make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and supported. All in favor, please signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Item 5A, approval of the regular meeting minutes from August 26th, 2024 council meeting.
I make a motion to approve the regular meeting minutes from August 26th.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. All in favor, please signal by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Item 5B, approval of the special meeting minutes from September 9th, 2024 council meeting.
I make a motion, we approve the special meeting minutes from September 9th.
I'll support.
It's been moved and supported. All in favor, please signal by saying aye. Opposed, nay. And item 6A, moving down to special, section 6, special presentations and recognitions by mayor or council. 6A, Day of Recovery Proclamation provided by OnPoint. So we have this. Do we need any introduction here, Joel?
No, just the introduction is the mayor is being asked to proclaim the Day of Recovery, and that you've been provided a proclamation to read from your chair.
I have.
Thank you.
With your, I'm gonna go ahead and read it. So, proclamation for a Day of Recovery. Whereas in 2024, the United States is facing a mental health and substance use disorder crisis of unprecedented scale, with 19% of U.S. adults identifying with a mental health disorder, and drug overdose deaths nearing 1 million since 2000. And whereas recovery from mental health and/or substance use disorders is attainable and can be strengthened through the connection to one's community and access to appropriate resources. And whereas every September there is a national observance called Recovery Month that honors those who embark on the journey to recover from substance use disorders and/or mental health conditions. Recovery Month is celebrated to promote and support new evidence-based treatment and recovery practices, support the emergence of a strong, proud recovery community, and recognize the service providers and community members across the nation who make recovery in all its forms possible. And whereas dedicated individuals and those in recovery are leading the Art of Recovery event, a key part of the Day of Recovery on September 27th, this free community event will take place at Allegan Riverfront Park from 12 to 4 p.m. Their leadership and personal experiences highlight the transformative power of recovery and community support. And whereas the city of Allegan stands in solidarity with these dedicated individuals and those in recovery in their efforts to highlight the impact of mental health issues and substance use disorders, by celebrating those who have found recovery, acknowledging the tireless efforts of those on the front lines of the crisis, and embracing families and loved ones who support those in need, we hope to reduce the stigma surrounding mental health and substance use disorders. We aim to empower those who have found a pathway to recovery and spread the message that wellness and recovery are achievable for everyone. Now, therefore, I, Roger Byrd, Mayor of the City of Allegan, do hereby proclaim September 27th, 2024 as the Day of Recovery. Yes,
Thank you, Mayor.
thank you all, I appreciate that.
We do have representatives from OnPoint in the audience. I'll just make a little side comment here. OnPoint is located up off, I call it M40, Jenner. It's a good thing for the city of Allegan to have those services so nearby. And, the work they're doing is, appreciated and, beneficial to our community.
Yes, absolutely.
Would it be okay if we invited one of the OnPoint representatives to speak
Please.
about the recovery event on the Riverfront?
Yeah.
Is it okay if all three of us come up?
Absolutely.
That's up to the mayor.
Please do.
Thank you for inviting us to speak in response to the proclamation that you have considered. We thank you. My name is Mark Whitty. I serve as the Executive Director for OnPoint, but I really want to give the credit for a lot of what's being planned here to those on our team who have involved themselves every day in supporting individuals with addiction and recovery journeys. And we just want to really give them the opportunity to speak about this. I'll introduce Lauren Tadaro, our program manager, and I'll let her handle the rest of the introductions.
Awesome. Thank you, Mark. Thank you so much for having us, and thank you so much for supporting the proclamation. This is really a day that is going to push forward a lot of community members that have been in the dark for a very long time in Allegan. And I'm so excited to introduce you one of the peer recovery coaches and peer support specialists on one of my recovery management teams, Kara Trainer, who I would love to have speak about her experience. She made this happen today, so.
Awesome. Well, welcome.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for the opportunity to come and actually do this proclamation. I'm a person with lived experience with substance abuse disorder and mental health issues. I celebrated 16 years away from illicit drugs in June.
Wonderful.
And, yeah,
Yeah.
it's hard. It is a journey, and people they struggle every day. And I think that substance abuse disorder and mental health affect not just the individual, but the family and the community. And so many people are suffering in silence. So I really think that the day of recovery is going to be awesome for Allegan, so that the community can support and come out, find resources, eat tacos. It's 12 to 4 this coming Friday. It's going to be fun. And I think that the other peers at OnPoint are really excited and just thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let me just conclude by asking you to consider inviting yourselves and others you may know to attend. You might say, well, I'm not a person in recovery, why would I do this? We are there to thank and appreciate people who have had the incredible struggle to overcome, because their struggle and their success has made every one of our lives easier as a result. So we celebrate them there, and that's what we're there for. So thank you for considering that and for reading the resolution.
Thanks, Mark. Thank you all. Thanks for being here. All right, so moving on to item number 9, public comment. If anybody has anything that they would like to discuss that's not on the agenda, you can approach the podium. Seeing no public comment, we'll move on to item number 10, written petitions and reports from special committees. Item 10A, we have a request from the Congregational Kitchen.
I'll handle this. I don't believe anyone's here. All right, so this came to us last week. They requested to place a banner out at Padgham Field on M222 coming into town. They wanted to get the banner up right away, so Parker placed it on my desk. I gave them permission right away, but I told them that they have to submit a letter to City Council for your review and approval this evening. This is what we've done for other agencies that wanted to place banners on city-owned property.
Yeah, does anybody have any questions or issues with this?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I support.
It's been moved and supported. All in favor, please signal by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Item 11, reports from boards, commissions, and city offices. Item 11A1, Downtown Development Authority September meeting. Parker, you're going to take this one? Thank you.
I can. The DDA met at their regularly scheduled meeting, discussed just a couple of topics. One of them was the proposed sale of city property to the address at 110 Hubbard Street, formerly known as On the Grid. The new restaurant moving in there has proposed some, like a 3-season porch extension off of the building on their current property. However, adding that on would require an entrance. So they have approached the city about purchasing a parking space, which directly abuts some city like landscaping there. And so the DDA floated the idea of just kind of lumping that parking space in with the landscaping there and selling that to the building, to the new building owners. And the DDA was supportive of that idea. We also discussed the proposed use of the city hall basement as storage units, which has been at this board a couple of times. The DDA was supportive of that. You know, the idea that it could benefit folks who are living downtown and encourage more people to live downtown if they've got nearby storage units here at City Hall. Just a better place to live and do business in downtown Allegan. And then we discussed the citywide wayfinding signage program, specifically, obviously, how it will affect the DDA, which we'll talk about later at your meeting this evening. That was about it.
Thank you, Parker. Item 11A2, Public Spaces Commission September meeting. Councilmember Morgan.
Our meeting, what it involved was riding around and looking at the different parks within the community and writing an assessment to Parker for him to make a publication of that. My assessment was lots of TLC needed for our public spaces. By that I mean brush needs to be replaced and everything else. Last Friday was a cleanup that they had down at Hanson Park. What I saw was very, very good. I had to work that day, so I wasn't able to attend. But firsthand, I was told that it was pretty well attended and done well. So other than that, that's it.
Nice.
And thank you, Joel and Parker, for making our tour possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we had a wedding down there on Saturday, so we got to benefit from having Hanson Park just being done and look beautiful. All right, thanks, Bill. Item 11A3, Planning Commission September meeting. Council, are you doing this one, Teresa? Or you want me to do it? You can do it?
Go ahead,
All right,
that's fine.
You want to do it?
I don't, it's pretty simple. I can read what's written here. At the Planning Commission meeting, we continued to discuss the proposed changes to the city zoning ordinance. In this discussion, staff agreed to summarize the zoning districts into one easy read document for the review. And then Joel told us about the success in obtaining a fellow from the Community and Economic Development Association, which he already told us about, and he told us about the $400,000 grant. And that was basically, there's so much work that goes into it that
Covered a
unless
lot of
you've
ground.
served on that
Yeah.
committee, you just, terms and changes and everything, it's really overwhelming what goes into making our map and all that, you know, the zoning, so.
A lot of work, for
It's-
sure.
Yep.
Yes. Thank you, Teresa. We'll go to item 11B, the Finance Department. 11B1, request to approve accounts payable and payroll. Peter?
It is requested that the city council approve accounts payable in the amount of $1,106,000.84 and payroll in the amount of $252,652.81 for a total disbursement of $1,358,653.65. Motion to approve?
Support.
It's been moved and supported. All in favor, please signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Thank you. Moving down to 11E, Public Works. 11E1, request to adopt Resolution 24.32 to authorize the mayor to sign a contract with CarbonSix for the construction of 6 T-hangar units at Padgham Airfield.
Thank you, Mayor. City Council, you reviewed and discussed this project at a previous meeting when you authorized the mayor to sign the contract with MDOT for this work. You'll recall at that time that we have to float some of the money for this project. The total construction price for these T-hangars is $1,306,576. The supermajority, 90%, is being paid by the federal government over the course of 2 years. The reason the contract is not in your packet is it's this thick, and for some reason, MDOT doesn't believe in sending us digital copies of the contract. Just paper ones, and we were not going to take this apart and scan it. So this project's been, again, discussed by council. They're going to start the site work this fall, and then they'll do the construction, the building going up next spring. And then we do need the resolution passed so the mayor can sign this so we can get the work going.
I make a motion to adopt Resolution 24.32 to authorize the mayor to sign the contract with CarbonSix.
I'll support.
It's been moved and supported. All in favor, please signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes. 11E2, request to authorize a purchase order for FC&A to sandblast and powder coat the riverfront railings in the amount of $50,000 and $50,034.
Thank
Joel?
you, Mayor. Before you is a request to authorize the city to work with FC&A. They are a company out in the industrial park. They are willing to work with our DPW to have the railings removed, approximately 50 at a time. They then will take them off-site, sandblast them down to the original metal, and then powder coat them. As you can see the pictures in your report, as well as on the screens behind you, this is some of that TLC that we need to do in our parks that Councilmember Morgan mentioned earlier. This is a project we really weren't planning on during our budget process, but since our community fundraising was so successful, where we were able to secure $219,000 in outside funding for Mahan Park. We have funding available to do this. This is work that needs to be done on a hot, humid day. If you put your bare skin, like your elbow, on that railing, black paint will come up and stick to your skin. The bottom right-hand picture that shows the post that is disconnected, that won't be taking care of part of this. That will be taken care of during the Mahan Park improvement
That was my
project.
question.
That's not, sandblasting and powder coat is not going to make new metal reappear, but we are going to take care of that we're going to take care of that
Pretty, but
railing as
don't lean
well.
on it.
Yeah. So, we're looking for you to approve, this purchase order so we can get this project done. And this is the entirety of the railing from the 2nd Street Bridge to Hanson Park and on both sides of the boardwalk that crosses the lagoon behind the library.
All right.
I make a motion that we approve the authorization of a purchase order for FC&A for an amount of $50,034.
I'll support.
It's been moved and supported. All in favor, please signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Item 11E3, request to authorize a change order in the amount of $54,600 and associated purchase order in the amount of $27,300 for Cronk Services for the Oakwood Cemetery lawn care. Joel?
Thank you, Mayor. The city has a multi-year contract with Cronk Services to do lawn care out at Oakwood Cemetery. When we went out for bid 3 years ago, Cronk was the only contractor to submit a bid. The bid goes through the end of spring cleanup in 2025. So like halfway through our fiscal year that we're in right now. Doug Codsman reached out to Cronk Services and said, hey, can we just extend your contract by 1 year so we don't have to go through a bidding process again? And then only have one firm bid on the project. Cronk Services agreed that they would be willing to extend their contract by 1 year, with the only change in the pricing is that the spring 2026 cleanup would be $1,500 more than what it was previously. So it's an overall amendment of $54,600 to his contract that we have. That includes the 6 proposed mowings after the spring cleanup in 2025. And that gets us into the new fiscal year after July 1st. And we have to have a new purchase order for FY '26, which is that $27,300. So long story short, we'd like to keep Cronk on board 1 more year. I will say, I have not received any complaints in the past couple years about the upkeep of the cemetery. So either those who complained to me back in 2019, 2020, and 2021 got tired of complaining to me, or things look a little better than what they did back then.
Great. Thanks, Joel. Any questions about this? If not, I will take a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the change in contract.
I'll support.
It's been moved and supported. All in favor, please signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Item 11F, City Manager and City Clerk. Item 11F1, request to authorize a purchase order for Guide Studio for the creation of wayfinding signage, program design bid documentation in the amount of $24,650.
Thank you, Mayor. Last year, City Council approved the city to go forth and create a wayfinding signage plan for the entire city. The majority of that plan was funded with a state grant. That plan created concept signs or concept designs for the signage in the city, as well as a message schedule and a location. What that plan did not create was detailed drawings that we then could go out and receive comparable bids from sign makers. And the 2025 budget, the one we're in right now, City Council set aside $40,000 to manufacture and install parking lot signage. We had some conversations for the past 5 to 6 months here in City Hall amongst city staff saying, let's just figure out what the thickness of the gauge of the metal is going to be for the signs and what kind of metal we want. And during that time, we kept on coming back to, we need to bring someone in to give us bid documents so we make sure we get apples to apples on these signs. When Guide Studio bid their project last year, they did have this as a phase 2. At that time, I chose not to incorporate this because I didn't know how far we were going to go down this project with the wayfinding. We are at a point where we need to bring someone on to develop those bid documents for us so we can go out to bid, so we can get apples to apples. It's the fairest, safest way we can ensure that we get bids that build signs that we want, that we need, and not, projects that, aren't all the way thought through. We have the money in our fund balance to pay for this. We presented this idea to the Downtown Development Authority. They are in favor of moving forward with this. They have recommended that we allocate $12,000 or 50% of their fund balance to help pay for this, and they recommend that City Council allocate the remaining 50% from the city's fund balance. A very positive note in moving this direction is they are going to create design documents, bid documents for every sign in our catalog. So this is a one-time thing. It's a lot of work, but it's a one-time thing that if we are comfortable that our signs are timeless in what we had them design, whether we install the sign, God forbid, and install them next year or 5 years from now, they're going to be good documents that we'll be able to use. Parker and I had a phone call with Guide Studio. I asked to see final documentations that they've done for other cities, just to make sure we're really getting, things that could go forbid, and we are. They are very detailed to the kind of reflective, stickers or paints that go on the signs, like I said, the thickness of the gauge of the metal, the kind of alloy that they're recommending. And this is, the other thing is they're gonna also run this up the flagpole of local sign manufacturers to give us a more zeroed-in budget. Because if you recall when you saw the original sign plan, they gave us a budget that was wonderfully varied. Yeah, they had a low end and a very, very high end, and a lot of room in between. This would be a much more laser focused. Hey, we went out to talk to these sign companies. Another reason we need to do this is we have a couple manufacturers in town that want to do the signs for us. And if we don't have an actual document to give them, RCI is going to give us something than what FC&A is going to give us. Neither of them are sign companies per se, but they make signs. And we need to make sure we get the, apples to apples kind of quote from them.
Nice.
Any questions?
Yes. Are they going to give us an option of different signs? I mean, like when they did their presentation, they had this design, and these colors.
So through this process, we're going to have to decide now
Okay.
on the actual, on what we want.
And they'll give us one.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we're going to
Okay.
zero in on that.
Okay.
The other thing, we did a really cool thing. We redid our downtown. We were redoing our downtown as they were doing the sign placement. They have to come back and verify that they're gonna put a sign here, before it might have been a flower bed, now it might be, concrete, where they have to core the concrete hole and, backfill with pea gravel, et cetera. So they're gonna be doing that work as well. This includes a field trip for them to come up here, visit us. We did share it to DDA. I should share this with you, I'm not holding anything back from council members. We did share with them that the DDA is gonna have a say in the sign design for the signs that are gonna be in the downtown area. I am thinking we might wanna create a subcommittee from city council also to have a little bit of a say, little bit of an influence on how that works as well.
Does that need to be done now or at a later date?
Later date is fine. They're not taking any new clients until November, they told us when we met with them on the phone.
Just create a subcommittee of a council member, public spaces, and DDA member.
That is a process, that is a way to go forward. There you go.
That way, because they're all gonna have an interest in this.
Yes, they are. I forgot about public spaces.
Well,
It's no surprise. I usually do forget about public spaces.
stop that.
All right, so if there's no more questions, take a motion.
I make a motion that we accept the documentation or the wayfinding signage for $24,650.
I'll support.
It's been moved and supported. All in favor, please signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Moving on to item number 13, communications from city manager, council, and mayor. Joel, anything?
I have nothing more to.
I have nothing to add.
Kayla?
Just for those of you who are attending the Mayor Exchange Day tomorrow, and we're heading to Hastings, we are going to leave promptly at 8 a.m. So we're going to meet here in the lobby and then leave from there.
All right. Sounds good. Teresa, anything from you?
I don't have anything. Thanks, Raj.
Delora?
I just want to remind council that I will not be at the first meeting in October on the 14th. I've mentioned that a couple times, but just again. Also, I don't know if anyone else has noticed those awesome stickers on the sidewalks for
Yeah.
the social districts.
Very cool.
So I had sent Parker a message earlier about that. I think those look really great. And then I wasn't able to be at the Hanson Park cleanup either because I worked during the day. So I know I've mentioned that before, but if we could do something on a weekend or maybe after hours, I think you would get, even more volunteers. I know I would have loved to be there, but that's it.
Thanks, Delora. Bill, anything from you?
No, I understand why some of us could not make it to that cleanup because we had to work. On the other hand, Saturdays, you have to pay overtime to the city workers. Not always? Oh, okay, cool. Okay, let's do it on a weekend.
Their union contract allows me to flex their schedule.
Okay, that's it for me.
All right. Tracy? Mike?
Nope.
Peter?
Just glad that the Prepare Fair went well. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to attend. I was out of town on business, and glad that the cleanup went well, and once again, was out of town on business, so. But glad those took place. I'm always happy that the community come out and help clean up the parks. Something that I've always thought is a very good thing, gets ownership back into the parks and into the community.
Great.
Can I add something? I want to thank Joel and Parker for being down at the cleanup. They worked their little fannies right off, so thank you so much.
Ryan was also there.
Pardon me?
I said Ryan was also there. He was taking care of,
See him.
he was taking care of the property surrounding the Griswold.
I didn't
That
see
was
him
his
in my
duty for the day.
drive-by.
That's fine.
But thank you to all of you.
You're all supposed to do your thing when I ask you the first time.
Well, I forgot.
Go ahead, Teresa.
I would just like to mention to council that Milbacher and Sons did an awesome job with our project downtown. And I would like to send our condolences and sympathies to Scott Milbacher, whose wife passed away this past week. So please keep him in your thoughts, because he is awesome, and so was Peggy.
Thanks for that reminder. And I don't have anything. Thank you all for being here for the proclamation. Appreciate your hard work, and thanks for your support here. And with that, I will adjourn the meeting at 7:32.